Welcome to Pregame.com's continuing coverage of Meet the Pros. I'm your host, Marco D'Angelo, and I'm joined today by Dave Essler, one of our pregame pros that's in Vegas right now, able to stop into the studio. Dave, this is what first of all, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for lunch. I've heard about that.
You've heard about it. Did I live up to...
It's all true.
It's all true?
It's all true.
Okay. Well, I tell everybody, not everybody can afford this. You got to pack a lot of winners in there to be able to maintain this frame. So that is all kidding aside. Dave, I'm glad to have you here. And what we do with this Meet the Pros series is quite simply, that's what it is. We want our listeners and viewers to get to know you, the person, and the handicapper. And I always like to start out, before we get into the sports end of it and the betting and everything, I ask the first question: who is Dave Essler, the person? Not the handicapper, but you. Well, give us a little background on Dave Essler.
Background. How far back do you want me to go?
As far back as you want to go.
We don't have that much time. Dave Essler, the person. Today, I own a couple of businesses back in South Carolina, which affords me the opportunity to spend a lot of time doing this, selling plays, betting my plays. It's what I do. I try to live one day at a time. It's kind of like my handicapping. Okay, let's do today, and then that's what I'm trying to teach my kids. So I'm really not that much different than anybody else.
Personal agenda here with this question: how old are you?
Personally, taking the fifth.
Well, you let it slip at lunch. So Dave Essler is slightly older than Marco D'Angelo. So all the guys that like to bust me as being the old guy on the block, officially I'm not. But you look a little better.
That's because I've been out by the pool at the Mirage, Marco. Yeah. You would too.
Yeah, there's been some discussions about that pool, but I cannot go into the discussions that we had at lunch. And let's just say Dave's going to have a very good afternoon when he leaves the pregame offices. Dave, I ask everybody this question when we do Meet the Pros. When did you make your first bet? How old were you, and do you remember it?
Do I remember it? No. I remember first getting into sports betting when I was in high school. I used to make those parlay cards. I was that guy. Mm-hmm. And what was really cool is, I guess the lines used to come out like for the NFL on Wednesday. Now they're out, 3 months ahead of time. But I used to make my own lines. And it was amazing how close I really was, except for one time when I was way off. And of course, back then it was, I think, 4 teams was like 10-1. Mm-hmm. And everybody used to play $1, and I used to not get too worried about it. And somebody played $5 and they hit all 4 of them. I was like, where am I going to get $50? Where? But that was my introduction to it. And then, I kind of probably like everybody else just migrated into the local guy and migrated into the online, and here we are.
It's amazing that I've done so many of these Meet the Pros because, I host them all. And when I ask that question, that story like that, it comes up over and over again. I myself, whenever I was in high school, I was making the parlay cards too. But see, what I did with the parlay cards were, when I was doing them, I did them to get my money to bet with. And, I was booking those, right. And the parlay cards, those were almost like printing money because
exactly.
Nobody ever hit.
Well, so don't say ever. It happened.
It happens, but
I was mortified.
For the most part, it's like free money. And then I would take that money, and that was my stake for playing my games that, I would handicap 1 or 2 NFL games. When I was younger, I started with just betting the NFL, and, my dad would put the bet in for me. I'll be honest, I hate to tell you, I started betting when I was 10 years old. So I went way back. And I always had that fascination, and it's, obviously it's the drive that's got me to, that I'm still doing this, going on my 32nd year. But let's get to you. You're one of these guys that I like to refer to was kind of a homegrown pregame guy. You came through the ranks. You were a big form poster at pregame. When you did a post, it was a destination. People stopped by. They wanted to see what, Uncle Dave had to say for the day. And tell us about that experience. your early days at Pregame, how you found Pregame, and then, how you evolved to get to now you're selling at Pregame.
I found Pregame quite by accident, like probably most people do. Or I don't say by accident. Nothing. I don't think anything's an accident.
It's kind of like when you find your first porn site, you just by accident.
You've been to the Mirage, haven't you? I guess I'm kind of like the classic. I've gone from buying picks to selling picks. When I found Pregame, I was overseas. I think I told Gil that, and obviously there's about a 16-hour time difference, and you just don't have access to the information that we have here now. And being that in 40 years I always had to have some sort of action, so so I stumbled on the Pregame and bought plays just like anybody else, which is kind of how I guess I can relate to a lot of these people, because I understand their mindset, I think, at least some of it. And then that sort of overseas tenure ended, and I had all this time. And I just said, well, this doesn't look that difficult. And to this day, I don't think it is. It's strictly a matter of time. So I had all this time. I started entering plays, and I really didn't have any desire to be a pro. And then through the other pros that I did meet, they said, well, I think you should. And I said, well, push came to shove, and I said, why not? And, here I am.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, you had incredible NFL season. Give us some of the highlights of your forum days, because I know you've had some really big seasons.
Oh, that was cool. NFL last year was, I think it was 63%. We had that mock forum contest, and I think I had 52 wins and 35 losses, and I think the guy that won the Hilton had 53.
Nice.
So I probably cost myself a little money there.
There you go.
Would I enter it now? No, because I have nothing to gain and everything to lose. So no, I don't think so. And of course, college basketball was a lot of fun. I think I hit about 60% of about 700 plays. I think that's where I had those massive views.
Absolutely. I mean, to be able to do it, and not to take anything away from any forum people. I mean, we've got guys that come into the forums. There's been a ton of great forum posters. We could go on and on with them, and there's still a ton of good ones at the forums right now. But to have that longevity, to be able to go from one sport to the next sport and continue to win and go into the next sport, that's what really separates the men from the boys. And you've been able to do that, and obviously, that's something that didn't go unnoticed by RJ, to go ahead and extend, the offer to you to be a pro. Plus, I can't remember a political campaign as much as it was almost like, when they got Betty White on Saturday Night Live, everybody was sending it out in Twitter and Facebook, and the next thing you know, she was on Saturday Night Live. But you had an incredible rally cry from the forums. People actually, normally it's the other way around. I got to be honest. Most of the forum people, when somebody goes pro, they're like, oh, sell out.
Why can't I do it?
Yeah, sell out, and now I got to buy your stuff. It was free and this and that. These guys, they were so appreciative of what you did that they were pushing for you to become a pro, and that was something that had to warm you up, make you warm and fuzzy.
Oh, that was a lot of fun. I mean, and I had nothing to do with initiating that. Razorback fan did that, and great guy. And it just kind of mushroomed. I mean, I remember waking up and seeing it, and I was like, I wonder where this is going to go. knowing the history that I didn't always have the discipline I have now. And so yeah, that was really a lot of fun. And actually what was really interesting is the longer RJ took, the more fun I had.
Yeah. It was a situation where, that thread just snowballed. It was like, it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And
well, what was really cool is I think I was getting like 6,000 views in college basketball. And I was looking at the views, and when that got over 6,000, I've made it in the world now. Yeah. I'm ready.
It's good, but this is something that you haven't missed a beat since. We're taping this.
Oh, I don't know, Marco. I can remember those first couple of weeks of of terror.
Well,
It's anybody that wants to do it. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, and to me, it is really a whole different universe when you're totally responsible for other people's money.
I mean, absolutely. People don't understand, the one difference is that, we've talked a couple times by phone, we've had exchanged emails, but I've never met you till we had lunch today. And, in talking with you, I can sincerely say that when you say something in the forums to your customers and that you care about and, you feel responsible, that's not a sales pitch. That is sincerity coming from you, that you do that. And that's something that I've done with my business, over the years. And it's one of the reasons why it's the only way you can have longevity in this business. It's the customers to me are more like friends than, they're paying money to come on board, but I feel responsible for them.
Absolutely.
And nobody feels, believe me, I bet every single day, Dave. I'm betting the games, I'm playing poker, and I understand that losing is a part of everyday life. You're going to lose, let's face it, over the long haul. If you are really, really good, you can maybe get to that 56% long-term record. But in doing that, that also means you're losing 46% of the time.
Absolutely.
So you have to be able to understand that losing is part of the game and be able to deal with that and use it to your advantage to move on. But there is a responsibility as a handicapper that, hey, these are guys that are putting money that maybe they can or cannot afford. Not everybody has a specific bankroll set aside for sports gambling, which in a perfect world, that's what you have. But most people don't bet that way. So great.
Well, I used to get, when I was in the college basketball, even before I was totally accountable because I'm a pro, and I would put out about 10 plays. I used to not want to do it even then because I knew I had all these people that were going to play those plays. And even though I wasn't getting paid, I didn't want to kill anybody.
It's great. And you know what? This is a good spot for us to break the video and go to part two. We're going to, we're having a good conversation. We haven't even got into your style of handicapping. So we're going to come back with part two of Meet the Pros with Dave Essler. I'm Marco D'Angelo. We'll be right back.